Welcome in, everybody. It's Saturday night, not Monday night, but welcome to Dynasty Takeaways. I am your host, Brandon, alongside Scott. Coming to you live. We haven't come live, Scott, for a Dynasty Takeaways in a couple of weeks. It's been a while since free agency. Free agencies happened, and then we had some we've had some combine since we last talked on Takeaways. So, how you doing this evening?
Doing well, yeah. It's a Saturday night. We decided to kick one of these off. We were going to do a show Monday and had stuff come up. So we decided we will go Saturday, but you're going to probably have Dynasty Takeaways from us maybe every other week. Don't want to say 100% for sure, but maybe every other week, coinciding with the draft board show that you guys are doing every other Monday. So you'll get some more Brandon. Might get Brandon once a week on the channel. So yeah, fun to hear, just to be talking about the stuff going on in Dynasty. Do you like my title to the show, Brandon? End of marching orders.
End of marching orders. Yeah, play on words. That was good. I picked up on what you were doing. Yeah, but we'll be having. The goal is to have takeaways every other week, and then to have Monday Night Draft Board with Shane. So it'll be Shane and I on Monday night, Scott and I on the other Monday nights. But I want to kind of talk about some things, some observations that maybe we've seen across the last few weeks. If you have a takeaway that maybe you've seen in your own leagues or a trade question that you have, drop it in the chat. We'll try to get to it, as we're here this evening. But one of the first the takeaways that I have, one of the observations, and I'm sitting right now in a live all gas trade show. Shout out to Ty and Gabe. I'm sitting in their auction right now, and I'm noticing these elite quarterbacks, Scott, are pricey. That is my first. It's takeaway up here tonight is the elite quarterbacks, or not quarterbacks, running backs. Sorry, elite running backs are pricey. I'm looking right now. Bijan is at 225. Now this is $1,000 auction budget, right? So 225. So we're looking at 22.5% already, Scott. And then Jahmyr Gibbs is at 210. So we're looking at two very high priced assets. Like there's, I think, 6 quarterbacks on the board, and those two are only behind Josh Allen. Like every other quarterback that's on the board, and there's a few. I mean, there's still a few to get up on the board, right? Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow, Dak Prescott, some other ones, but like Jaden Daniels is on the board, Drake May's on the board, Josh Allen's on the board, Justin Herbert's on the board, and the only one that these running backs are not overtaken yet is Josh Allen, but it is 0.15 PPC. But talk to me about how you feel this elite running back market has been this offseason.
Yeah, I see the questions rolling in. What are the other scoring settings? What's the tight end premium? How many starters? Because is it best ball or lineup? I assume it's best ball.
So it's 14 by 11, 25-man rosters, best ball. Okay.
Yeah, and a couple things. I mean, first of all, it's best ball. Second of all, it's 14 teams. So if you just think about the stretch of how much an elite running back goes, it's going to get stretched further in a 14-teamer because there's going to be teams at the tail end that are going to be even further behind if they don't get them, right? It's also best ball. We know in best ball, you can't just play the any RB on a 53. You need an RB on a 53 that has a role, that has a 8 to 10 opportunity a game role. Otherwise, they're just kind of an empty bench spot or an empty spot that's not going to hit your lineup until they have a role. And so if you think about it in a best ball 14-teamer, I think that's probably driving the prices a little bit higher, Brandon, because you can't just add 12 running backs to your bench and go, I'm going to have a fine roster construction. Having an elite running back goes a long way. Getting 3 or 4 running backs that have roles is even harder to do in a 14-teamer. But that aside, I mean, that's a format thing. Obviously, the best ball, obviously the 14 teams is going to make the prices or the scarcity be a little bit higher. But I think it's just a product of, look at the other positions, right? If the premium is not high enough, and I could argue that even in a 1-5, there's still an argument to be made around Bowers or McBride. Now, the key is most people don't build their teams correctly when they get a guy like Bowers or McBride. If you're going to get Brock Bowers in the first round of a 1-5 premium startup, you don't take another tight end. If he's down, like Dalton Schultz in the 11th isn't helping you. You know what I mean? You don't want to flex Dalton Schultz in that format. So tight end's kind of out unless it's a certain premium. quarterbacks outside of Allen, I think people are a little hesitant to say, man, I really need to get May, or I really need to get Daniels, or I really need to get Lamar. And the reason is because I think in certain startup rooms, Brandon, you can go in round 4 and it's like, oh, I'm getting Dak. Round 6, I'm getting Kyler Murray. And people are fine with that quarterback build. And there's different levels to that. But I think people are much more comfortable today, kind of just getting their 2 QBs. We were looking at a roster the other night. This was a 12-teamer. We were looking for one team that needed a quarterback, Brandon. I kid you not, out of the top 25 team or 25 QBs on Keep Trade Cut, every team had 2 of them. There was no like hoarder. There was no team that needed one. Like, every QB room was like, oh, Brock Purdy and Jared Goff. Now that team might want an upgrade, but you know what they don't want? To buy a third QB at the price of selling their Kenneth Walker for a QB. Do you know what I mean? Like, they didn't want to make that kind of deal. They don't have to. So
right.
I think a lot of teams are just comfortable saying, I don't need to take a quarterback. And then let's be honest, at the top of the receiver landscape right now, there's Jamar Chase, but he turned 26. He's getting, I don't want to say he's getting old, but he's not like considered the cornerstone. I'm building around for the rest of my career with Jamar Chase, right? He's in his prime.
Right.
And then who are the other elite receivers? JSN, right? And then Puka. People don't trust Puka. The person that has Puka loves him, but I don't think a lot of people are like, man, Puka's an elite receiver. I'm taking him above Bijan. I'm taking him above Gibbs. I've seen Chase go above Puka in most startups.
Mm-hmm.
So there's really just, there aren't receivers to draft. So then we go right back to not even about Gibbs or Bijan, or you can even extend it down to Genty or Hampton or the 101 or Achan or whatever. I think people are much more comfortable building around having an elite running back.
Yeah.
And then you have maybe the best running backs that we've had in the league since McCaffrey's prime, really since like 2018, 2019, when Saquon and McCaffrey were at their peak. These are the best 2 guys that we've had in a while. They're both elite pass catchers, everything you could ask for in terms of how they've been used. They're at the peak. And so I think people are much more comfortable now in saying, I'm just going to build around the elite running back. And part of it is there's just not a lot of other elite stuff to tick. And even at the positions where you think you can kind of just wait, there's a lot more options. So I think that's the reason. It's a culmination of all of those things coming together. And then you add to that, it's not a strong rookie class. I just don't think there's going to be a lot of movement at the running back position over the next year. There's going to be different names, but I don't think the landscape's going to change that much.
Yeah, I was going to ask you the question because, I mean, I've been on record, last week on the All Gas Trade Show when I jumped on with Gabe and Ty, and I talked about, Jeremiah Love being a potential elite running back asset. Right now, whether or not you feel that way or whether or not people feel that way, is that somebody who you want to target, going into the 20? Like, are you trying to get 101s because you want to get some Jeremiah Love? Is that somebody that you possibly want to get? Or is that just not somebody you're just like, you know what, I'm just going to go to Bijan or Gibbs and I'm just going to move it along? Not sure if we might have lost Scott off the stage. So I'm going to boot him for a second. I'm just going to jump to solo screen. Well, you're going to get solo takeaway, Brandon, tonight. But let's look at the chat. Let's look. Yep. Jackson Tribe even said it. Running backs have definitely been durable over the last 2 seasons. Yeah. I think that definitely plays into it. NFL turned injuries off turned them off for 2 years. Yeah, that's very possible. Let's see. What do we got here? Wonder if I'm going to say fragility went with the hip drop. I mean, that's very possible too. Trent, that is very possible. Mike Conron, friend of the program, out here saying Love seems to be the only one I'm able to get. Yeah, I mean, if you're in the chat right now, what are you paying for old Jeremiah Love? What do you got to pay? What do you got to do for that 101? I've done a couple scenarios with Shane on Monday Night Draft Board where I've tried to get that 101 from him. I've tried Kenneth Walker and a mid-pick in 2026. He doesn't want to budge. You know, how far do you got to go up? How far do you got to move to get to the the Jeremiah Love owner that's at the 101? Let's just say it's the 101, right? Let's not say Jeremiah Love yet, but at the 101 pick, what does it take to get that to pry that pick away? Because they've had to wait for so long, and now they have an opportunity at that asset. What does that look like? What is that price point? So let's see what else everybody else got here in the comments. Also, quarterback has declined a little bit. Okay, wide receiver war has been flat. Yeah, I can see that. I can see that. Jackson Traub. Picked up. I'm gonna take this banner off for a minute here so we can see your beautiful comments here. Let's go. Picked up a bunch of love in Achane, Genty, Bijan Gibbs. I mean, how far down do you feel with the elite wide running back price, right? We talked about Bijan Gibbs. How do we feel about Achane right now? With a new offense, how do we feel about Genty with the new offense? Because I think those are two guys that I think if you can't get Bijan Gibbs, can you get Genty? Can you send that same offer and maybe get a Genty owner who's maybe feeling not so hot, or maybe it's an Achane, yeah, it's no guts, no sausage. It's Gibbs, Bijan, Genty. You want RBs in their early years. No, I agree. So that's why I'm asking, like, do we go? Is the takeaway not just that they're pricey, but then maybe you need to pivot to the one that's the cheapest? Elite QBs will be the best values in startup trades from this offseason. Yeah, I mean, I can't fault you, Mike. I can't fault you there. Especially there's folks that are maybe a little down on Lamar with the new change. I mean, I've seen Jalen Hurts slipping a little bit here. Like if you want to get that next tier down on quarterback, now is the time to kind of go try and go get it. So yeah, I did see a question earlier, and I'm gonna bring it up now. Maybe I didn't see. Maybe I saw it somewhere. I saw the question earlier. It was really, if somebody was to if a rookie running back goes to Seattle, how high would we take them? Right? How high would we take those guys? If Mike Washington goes round 2, or if Jonah Coleman or Jadarian Price goes at pick 64, because that's what the pick that the Seahawks have, how high do we take that running back? And I think for me, they're not an elite running back, but I think I see 110. Okay. Would you be willing to sell? So let me ask the question there. Sorry. So 110, 112 range. Okay. That's good. 110, 112, 110, 112. I'm seeing that. Okay. Because I think that's also factoring too into why people are also very high on Love, is because you've got this, there's one, and then there's like a pretty steep tier 2 RB2, right? There's just a lot in between. There we go. Dynasty Scaredy says 109. All right. So we're getting 109s. Okay. People will be starved for anything other than wide receiver in the 103 to 110 range. So you could see earlier. Yeah. I mean, and I think it also factors into your league settings too, right? Like if all right, here we go. 106. There we go. There's the first one to jump. All right. So I think what I'm saying here is there is value in getting to Jeremiah Love and getting to Bijan Gibbs. And if you can't get to them, what is the alternative? What is your pivot? Where do you go next? Right. So that was takeaway one, was the elite running backs were pricey. I'm going to go with this one. This was my second early takeaway here. And that was that the early offseason bets can pay off in the right scenario, right? The early offseason bets paid off in the right scenario. And what do I mean by that? When I say something like that, what do I mean? Like, Brandon, what are you talking about? There were some bets that you could make in the offseason before free agency, before the combine, that probably would have been able to get you into some of the some good players. Right? I mean, the one that I can think, Malik was a home run, Mike. The other one that I can think of off the top is Kyler Murray. I mean, Kyler Murray, you could have gotten him for probably an early second through most of the most of the offseason until we got to the point where we kind of figured, okay, he's going to get cut. I'm trying to think of a couple other ones. I mean, Malik was definitely the big one. Kyler was definitely a big one. I mean, offseason bets, if you bet on Brian Robinson coming back, granted, he's not in an elite role, but you probably felt pretty good if you could get him. Emmanuel Wilson, if you just bought him at some point during the offseason prior to him landing with Seattle. I mean, yeah, Jackson Tribe, Algier. I mean, a lot of these guys, and really what I'm looking at is guys that you didn't have to necessarily pay like the let me phrase it this way. You didn't have to pay a premium price to get a potential premium outcome. Right. And I'm not saying that Tyler Algier is going to be an elite, RB1, but I think you probably paid like RB3, 4 prices to go get an RB, to potentially get like an RB2. Right. Like there's so many different, like, yeah, Travis Etienne was another one. Montgomery, Javonte, Tootin, like all these guys. I guess what I'm saying is you could have made a lot of offseason bets this offseason. Yeah, C-Rod was free. Like I'm seeing the chat blow up with all these. Like these are the guys that like you could have paid off, that could have paid off in the right scenario. Right? There's guys that you could have made the bets, because I've heard a lot within our own DD Discord. The 2026 class is not appealing. That's what I keep saying. It's not appealing, right? It's not that it sucks. It just didn't appeal to everybody. The picks, the players that are at those picks, they're not appealing to us because we could take something better in a veteran than what the rookie would offer, right? I don't want to take Kenyon Sadiq as the tight end 1, because I can take that pick and I can go get a tight end plus that'll be more appealing to what my roster construction is. I don't want to take the risk on a Kenyon Sadiq if he goes to Carolina, right? I don't really want to make these second round picks in 2026. Let me go take these picks and go make some bets, right? I've already started to make some bets right now. We had a community chat 2 weeks ago. I'll be fully transparent. I've been buying Tony Pollard. I've had numerous offers out on Tony Pollard. I'm making the bet right now that Tennessee doesn't draft Jeremiah Love. And what's going to happen when that happens is people are going to end up wanting Tony Pollard. Now, I've paid a little bit higher on some levels, 0.2 PPC with the point per 2 point, with the extra point per first down. Tony Pollard, I've paid, in a best ball like 109, which is probably on the high end premium side, but I've also paid as low as 201, 202, 203, right? Point being is I've started to make some offseason bets now. Now I've transitioned from offseason bets into free agency. Now I'm making some offseason bets that are going into the NFL draft, because what I'm looking at is when the NFL draft comes and we're on the draft stream because today's Saturday the 28th, in 4 weeks, when we look at the draft and we're on Saturday, and this is about when we're wrapping up round 3 and we're looking at all the picks that have been made. I'm trying to make some bets right now on some veterans that are in some uncomfortable spots that if a team doesn't draft a guy in, say, the first round or the second round, from a fantasy perspective, people will feel more comfortable about those players, right? So guys like, even though Tyler Algier was mentioned, I kind of want to see what I kind of want to buy some James Conner cheap. I kind of want to buy some Jerome Ford and some Jeremiah Love, because at some point, right? At some point, Jeremiah Love's going to hit one of the teams in the top 10. Right. So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to buy some Tyrone Tracy. I'm trying to buy some Jerome Ford. I'm trying to buy some Rashad White. I'm trying to even buy some Bill, if anybody wants to get off those Bills, because those are illiquid assets that when they see a 2026, late pick, they're like, man, you're giving me a 26 late pick for these guys? Like, cool, go for it. Like, not a big deal. So yeah, that's definitely something there. That's definitely on the table for me as I'm moving to off-season bets. Like I'm shifting my off-season bets now from free agency to teams that definitely are in need of some players, right? So like guys like Jerry Jeudy, right? Like that's a guy I'm trying to make a bet on right now, because you know what, Jerry Judy's pretty cheap, and you know what, if they bring in Carnell Tate like at 6, I'm still okay, but I'm not paying a super premium price. And if they don't make the move at Tate at 6 and they go a different direction because of whatever reason, now all of a sudden I still have the wide receiver 1. So like these are just some of those moves that I'm just kind of considering right? And yeah, anyone in a good offense, right? Anyone in a good offense for you is that, betting on the Eagles bouncing back, guys, like perfect. Like, can I get Devonta Smith for something that is not, the premium first round pick? Because there's enough smoke there, right? Yeah, vet wide receivers, McLaurin, Godwin. Like I'm just challenging everybody here on the stream tonight. As we got almost 100 people watching, which is absolutely crazy to watch me doing a monologue here. Scott lost his power. That here's what I'm doing. Here's what the takeaways that I am doing is that I see some offseason bets that we can make as a fantasy football community. And can you make these deals? Do you feel comfortable making these deals with the unappealing picks to try and get to stuff that makes you feel comfortable so that if the bet works, pays off? And even if you don't like the player, right? You may not like Terry McLaurin. You may not like Devonta Smith. You may not like taking on some of these older players, right? Like, you've got to be able to make some bets now, even though you may not like the player. The process is, I'm going to take the cheap asset and I'm going to try to flip it into a 27 pick right down the road, because that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to take the 26 asset that I don't like, turn it into a vet, and then maybe be able to transfer that vet out later. Right? Because what I can't do right now is I can't send a 26 first straight up for a 27 first. 8 out of 10 times you're getting rejected. People are just like, nah, I'm good. I'll just wait. I'm okay. Like, I'm fine. Yeah, there you go. Pick it up for, like, that's the kind of move you want to make, right? Go pick up Jerome Ford. If Jeremiah Love gets drafted to the Commanders on pick 7 on, Thursday night, then okay, what are you going to do? You're just going to drop him. Like, like, don't make this hard for yourself. Like, like, this is probably like 27 first or Devonta Smith. It depends on where we want to go, right? Like, what do you want to do? Do you want to bet on AJ Brown being traded? It's probably, if it does happen, it's going to probably happen on draft night or day 2, which would be unfortunate because by then, what pick are they really getting? Because they really want them to get the first. Like, you could take the 27 first, but what I don't want to do, JR Rika 284, is I don't want to trade a 27 first where I have the opportunity to be in a top 6 pick. Like, that is where my line right now is on the 27 first. If I know that I'm getting a lottery 27 first or a high 27 first, so let's say 101 to like 105, 106 right now, I don't even have to know all the names past Jeremiah Smith and potentially Arch Manning. I just need to know that there's probably going to be a few more assets in that top 5 or 6 than what's currently right now. And I'm willing to take that. Yeah. I mean, these guys are getting a little bit older. So, I mean, this is definitely where we're at. And this is definitely, an interesting one for people to go for by Jimmy G. Yeah. Why do you still have Jimmy G on? I guess if you're doing the any QB on a 53. Yeah, sure. What else we got here? What else? I'm going to try and catch some of these questions that are up here at the top. I'm going to try to do this. Here we go. This was the question I was looking for from Dustin. The 12-team start 11 Superflex that has a 2.0 tight end, so 2-point tight end premium and a 0.25 PPC. So this is the question I was trying to refer to earlier. If Seattle drafts an upside running back, what's the highest rookie pick you'd use to draft him? I think where people will put him, Dustin. And yeah, shout out to everybody at DD. Yeah, we try to do the best we can. I would say it's probably like 106, right? 105, 106. I think we talked about this. Breaking news here. Scott's on his way back. He's in the chat, guys. He's there. Source per sources, we got Scott coming back. I think we could take 106. I think I'd be fine taking, because here's the thing, Dustin, right? Here's the question. Here's what you got to ask yourself. 106, or let's just say it's use the name Jadarius. Let's just use Jadarian Price for the example. Just for the example. We're not saying that he goes there, but Jadarian Price or Mekhi Lemon. Jadarian Price or Jordan Tyson, right? Jadarian Price or, Casey Concepcion. Exactly. This is exactly what we're doing, Jackson Tribe. Like, you got to put them up. You kind of almost have to put them against one another. Where do you feel comfortable saying, okay, you know what, that player and that talent, even if they have a shaky landing spot, is still better than where we're at, right? Welcome back. Welcome to the program. Usually it's me who has the problems and the issues, but tonight it was Scott. We're having fun.
Yeah.
We were having some fun, Scott. We were just answering.
I saw for about a minute because I was
There
on my data. But forgive me, in between questions here, I'm on live chat with Spectrum Internet
Yeah, there we go.
because they can. You do not knock the internet out while we're streaming. I mean, come on.
Take that, Spectrum. So the question that we were asking, Scott, was if Jadarian Price goes, we're just using Jadarian Price for the example. Jadarian Price goes at pick 64 to the Washington, or not the Washington Commanders. He goes to Seattle Seahawks, right? So that right now they currently only have George Holani and Emmanuel Wilson. He goes to pick 64. How high are you willing to take that Seattle running back, knowing what Ken Walker did there last year? How high would that pick have to end up being? I've kind of rifled off some names because I don't think there's necessarily like a pick that you could say this is the highest I would go. It's what player in the tiers would you feel the most comfortable with going over?
I mean, I think if that's the scenario, he's the RB2, he gets second round capital, he goes to a spot where everyone's going to put him as the immediate day one starter. I think he goes right into that 106, 107, 108 with the other first round receivers.
Yeah.
Like I'm looking at this class right now as, first off, I don't think the top three receivers are as locked in as people want them to be. I've seen some leakage out there on, I don't really think people value that 105 like you thought it might. Like I think people kind of see that 105 as they're okay if they have the pick, but I don't think 105 gives you a lot of credit if you're going to try to sell it, even though it's probably going to be one of those top three receivers in almost every format, right? At the same time, you're just praying if you have the 107, 108, 109, 110, that there are more first round receivers, that there's a first round running back that everybody chases, that there's a Ty Simpson in the first round, there's a Kenyon Sadiq in the first round, there's Eli Stowers that goes to a place where people think he's going to play right away. That doesn't mean that 110 now is an equivalent player to what I would have gotten in prior classes. It just means there might be a demand for the 110 out there because there are other options to pick. Does that make sense? So Price just falls into that range. Like I think if there will be somebody that says, I need a running back. I don't need another Jameson Williams, or I don't need another that type of receiver. And I think that's probably a high-end comp if you're talking about like the wide receiver 4, 5, 6, somebody like JMO, right?
Right.
There's going to be a team. I don't need one of those. You know what? I need a running back because I had these three guys and they're not starters anymore. I'm just going to take them because it feels like you're already throwing that pick away. 2 months ago, you thought the 109 was just going to be a throwaway pick. And now there's another option to take. I think a lot more people will just be freed to say, well, I need it. I'll take it. Don't care if I paid 106, 108, 109. It doesn't matter. So I think he slides in there. I think there's another running back that could slide in there too. Guy goes in the early fourth or late third. Doesn't matter where the capital is. If they go to a spot where they can get early opportunity, let's say the Commanders take one and they don't get Jeremiah Love. They take like Emmett Johnson in the early fourth. Someone will take him at the end of the first because it's like, well, he's just as good as what they already have. So I think it's just more about moving the tiers. It's not the class. This is the worst rookie class that I've ever seen. This rivals the 2016 rookie class, but it's probably even worse because at least in that class, you had quarterbacks. You had Jared Goff and Carson Wentz. They were the first two picks. Like this class, you don't even have that. And the quarterback market has vastly changed even to where it was like 3 years ago. So we could have Ty Simpson that goes in the first. 80% of people will still say he sucks. He shouldn't go in the first. I'm not touching him with the first round pick. Huh? In this class, it's a terrible class. So any rescue that you can get with any of these picks in the top 10, top 11, top 12, even top 7, 8, 9, go. Yep.
Yeah. I mean, here's a question. Here's a crazy one from DNYJ5.
No.
Am I crazy for trading a 104 for an easy top 5 pick? No, I don't think so. I mean, if you have the build to do it, like I don't think it's that far off.
Well, you know what's crazy to me, Brandon, is, and I won't say any names, but it becomes kind of a hive mind with these rookie picks. I have seen a lot over the last couple of weeks of people not even wanting Mendoza in the top 3. Man, I don't need to take him. I'll just let him fall. I'll take him at the 104. If he's there at the 105, I'll take him. I mean, this is the first overall pick at quarterback. Historically, that is the best bet to have a massive leash And generally, the guys that go first overall have better success than the guys that go third, fifth, second. You know what I mean? Just generally speaking, they last longer. Typically, we don't give the NFL a lot of credit for picking QBs because they're pretty bad at it. But generally, when they pick a guy 101, it's a decent bet for them to hang around. Doesn't mean, but I think we've changed the measuring stick for Mendoza. It is, he's not going to be elite, so I still don't really want him. And that speaks to where the quarterback market has completely changed. What we were talking about before I got cut off. People are willing to just say, yeah, my quarterbacks are Brock Purdy and Jared Goff. That team in a lot of leagues would not even take the third QB. Right? They have 102. They're not even looking QB because they figure Mendoza is not really much better than those guys. Even at his peak, he might get Brock Purdy. You'd hope he gets to Jared Goff, but like he's probably somewhere in the middle. So that team no longer takes a third QB. They say, I'm taking the best receiver. And yet you go out to the open market, and what happens if you need to go buy a QB? Brandon, I need to buy a QB. I'm trying to buy CJ Stroud or Jordan Love. And you know what the price to get him is? It's like 103, you know?
Yeah.
102, 103 to get him off somebody else's roster.
I mean, we're in a league together. What did I have to pay for Malik Willis this week? Yeah. Malik Willis. And that's like, I'm just trying to get some security. And I'm paying with the 111 for Malik.
Yeah.
Now, granted, that league's got a little bit of, there's some quirks in that league. But the point is like, I think you're spot on with like people. I want to ask you the question. Do you think that Cam Ward and how his rookie campaign has maybe affected fantasy football players to a degree on how we view the 101? Because I remember pretty well, like, and I think you may have even said this, right? That like Cam Ward was like the quietest 101 in NFL history. Like we just didn't hear anything about, like, it was a foregone conclusion all the way back to when you guys went to Mobile. Like it was a foregone conclusion. He was going to Tennessee, but like, nobody felt good about him going to Tennessee.
Well, I'll tell you what, I have not paid attention to the Cam Ward market for the last 3 months because I've just been watching every single rep from last year at least 4 times. I've just watched so much Cam Ward film in the last couple months. It's just incredible. No, I'm just kidding. I don't even think it's that because it's funny. Cam Ward could not have been worse as a rookie. I still don't think his ceiling's really that much higher or even higher than Fernando Mendoza, right?
Right.
But he's still hard to go take from somebody's team. If you're trying to go take 26 rookie picks to get Cam Ward, you might be able to get him with the 104, 105, 103. There might be a team that says, I'm not trading him unless I get the 102 because then I want to replace him with another QB, right? But at the same time, quarterbacks are just very transactional. A lot of these deals don't get done in leagues if the deal doesn't fit both sides. That's what I was talking about earlier with that example. In a league where there's quarterbacks just kind of aligned on every team, there's very little motivation for a team to go out there and overpay for a quarterback that's not elite. And then we've already talked about the degradation of the elite QBs. Drake May's QB2. And there's a lot of people that don't know if he can even take it to another level from where he was. Like, he was good last year, but he wasn't historically an elite quarterback. So then, like, are there even elite quarterbacks besides Josh Allen? I don't know. You could have a year where it's like QB3 and QB12 are 2 points a game or less apart. And if that's the case, you don't want to pay for QB3. You know what I mean? You'd rather just have QB12.
Look at who's QB3 right now in KTC. It's Caleb Williams. Anybody feel good about Caleb Williams being a top 5 dynasty quarterback? Like that?
I think the point is
we're
at a point. We're at a point where buying an elite quarterback used to mean you're getting truly somebody you're betting is going to be a big difference maker. Now it feels like it's a stretch, whether it's Caleb, whether it's Lamar, whether it's Jaden, whether it's Drake May. I mean, May's probably the consensus too for most people just because he's had a really good season already. But it just feels like teams do not need to take a QB there. If you're going to draft QB in a startup, you need to be very strategic on how you build your roster around it. I'm going to start up right now. I don't do snake startups, but it's an interesting format where we're essentially, we're training a bot to run the team for us. So we don't even make any decisions. There's been 2 teams in that startup that have taken 3 QBs. They're hoarding. Like a team that went Lamar, Mahomes, and then they took Baker Mayfield. And the entire time, They are trying to move that third quarterback in the startup, and they can't do it. 2 teams are trying to do it because I'm getting the offers because we faded quarterback. I'm getting the offers, Tom. Hey, man, you want to give up a 27 first and one of these startup picks for Baker? It's like, no. And they're stuck, right? And you know what happens? The other teams just are continually taking skill players, you know? I don't need a running back. I'll just take another one. I don't need a receiver. So it's killing those teams that are trying to hoard. At the same time, what does that tell you about the future market of QBs next year? Because we know all we have is Mendoza right now. But like what's going to flip? Because something's got to give. You can't have a quarterback market that is as flat as it is today and then have 6 first-round quarterbacks next year. There's not enough jobs. There cannot be 32 quarterbacks that are valued. There has to be some uncomfortable ones that are dropping out. Who's going to drop out? Guys like Sam Darnold, Baker Mayfield, Jared Goff, like those guys, not saying they're going to get replaced, but they fall down a peg. You know what I mean? Like other than that, we're not going to have room for a historic quarterback class, which we're banking on. So this is a fascinating QB market, and it's taken the demand for Mendoza and just kind of parked it. Like, sure, if there's a team that doesn't have a QB and they get him at the 102 or 103, they're ecstatic. But if it's a team that already has a good QB room, I have Joe Burrow and Bo Nix. I don't want to draft Mendoza. And a lot of people behave that way. They don't care about the value anymore because they know as soon as they have 3 or 4 starters like that, you can't go trade Mendoza for Kenneth Walker. You know what I mean? You should be able to, but a lot of leagues you can't just go and get skill players for your extra QBs was my point.
Yeah, and I think to kind of wrap the bow on that sentiment, like I think what's happening too is you're having these seasons where you have guys like Matt Stafford who's having career years at age 38, and then you're also having Jaden Daniels having an injury riddled season, and I think those two like weird and those are just 2 of them, right? But then you have just guys like Daniel Jones who had a boosted season, right? Who was off the ground. Like this is exactly, here you go. There's your 8 openings potentially.
And I think you had Mahomes get injured, you had Burrow get injured, you had Lamar had a down year, you had Jaden get injured. Like a lot happened with
Herbert had a bad offensive line. Like literally his whole line fell apart by week 5.
A lot happened with the quote unquote like the top 10, top 12 tier of QBs that people just feel like, man, if I would have just picked even Brock Purdy who had a good year, but he missed half the season, right? If you would have just had Jared Goff, Trevor Lawrence, Matthew Stafford, Dak Prescott, you could have got all those guys outside of the top 10, right? And those were the teams there at the end. The teams that had Jacoby Brissett at the end of the year. Like, and a lot of teams were successful with those rooms, but it has to flip. Yes, all those ones on the screen could go. But what happens if a couple of them play good, right?
Kyler probably gets another contract if he's adequate in Minnesota, right? I would like to think that one of those quarterbacks that are mentioned in Atlanta, one of them is going to get a shot to be at least one of them will be there in 2027. Which one? Pick your flavor. I could care less. Like, I think Daniel Jones is probably still lurking in Indianapolis. Geno's is going to be the rent a tank 101 quarterback. Like that's just been his role the last few years. Like, and that's the other thing. And I think that's also the other thing too, is right. Is like some teams are already leaning into we know we're bad. Like the Jets and the Cardinals. Sorry, Jackson Tripp. Like the Cardinals and the Jets are already pretty much saying, hey, 26 ain't our year. We're just going to roll. We're going to roll Jacoby Brissett and Gardner Minshew out there. We're going to roll. Jets are like, we're going to roll Geno Smith, and maybe we'll take Ty Simpson. But if we don't take Ty Simpson, we'll probably just go get another quarterback. We're fine with it. We just don't care. Like, and it's March 28th, and they're just like, we don't care.
Okay, well, let's go through an exercise real quick. I know we've talked about this, but this is something that just comes to my mind because I'm always looking at the correlation of the 2 bets, right? We have a very flat and stable QB landscape right now where if you pick up and you go look at the top 20, Kyler, I think, is quarterback 24. He's right on that edge, right? He's like the last one where He's good enough that if you told me he ends up getting a multi-year deal and fills a starting spot for the next 3 years, I wouldn't be shocked. He's also one where you could say he has a very thin margin for it to be he's replaced next year and he's a backup. Like, this is his year. It's either make or break. He's either going to be halfway through the year, you're going to know if he's going to be a future starter or he's Justin Fields or he's Tua. You know what I mean? But let's just go through these. I'm pretty confident that these QBs are not getting replaced. And there's going to be a couple on here that people are going to go, I don't know about that. It would take a catastrophic season for the team to just flat out say we're picking high enough and we're replacing the QB. Okay. So we agree. Lamar Jackson, right? Nope. Josh Allen. Neither of those are going anywhere.
Neither of them are going anywhere.
I'll put Bryce Young up there.
Okay.
I think he sucks. We know he sucks. We know he shouldn't get the 5th-year option. We know he shouldn't get an extension.
But he's getting it.
But the reality is the Panthers are probably going to be in the 500 range, maybe a little better. Like, they're not going to be woeful. You know what I mean? And just the way that they've behaved has been like they're more likely to commit half-assed to Bryce Young than they are to replace him. Just flat out say we're done with him. We're not picking up his 5th-year option, which they're going to have to decide here in the next month anyway. They're going to pick it up.
Yep.
And then they're on the hook for $28 million or whatever it is next year. He's not getting benched. Now, if he's so bad and they're 4-13, then I can see them saying we're going to draft a QB and his ass is grass. You know what I mean? But I think that's pretty slim. Like, I don't think they're going to go 3-14. I could see them being 8-9. And guess what? They are in Derek Carr territory, Andy Dalton territory. They're stuck because they're not going to be able to replace him. They're not going to pick in the top 12.
They're going to be pick 19 next year. Pick 20.
Even if they're pick 14, they're QB 6 off the board, QB 5. That's not the range where you're like, man, we're going to waste the pick. We're going to probably go with Bryce. So I'm going to put Bryce in the category of unlikely to get replaced, but also like he's going to be QB 35 going into next year, even if he's the starter. People will know that he's on his last legs. Caleb Williams not going anywhere. Joe Burrow not going anywhere. Dak not going anywhere. Bo Nix not going anywhere. Jared Goff, Jordan Love, CJ Stroud not going anywhere. That's 9. T-Law, Pat Mahomes, Mendoza, Herbert. That's 13. Drake May, 14. Jackson Dart, 15. Jalen Hurts, 16. Brock Purdy, Sam Darnold, Baker Mayfield, Cam Ward, and Jaden Daniels. That's at least 21 quarterbacks.
Yep.
I'm very confident are going nowhere. And then you have a few others that I didn't mention. You have like Tyler Shuck, kind of make or break year for Tyler Shuck, right?
I think he's on the roster in 27, regardless of if he goes 1-16 or
agree
10-6.
But if he goes 2-15, they're going to pick a QB. So at that point, he's not a starter. He won't be treated as a starter. So I'm putting him on the maybe category. He's going to have to play his way out of it. Is that fair?
That's fair.
Kyler, same thing. He's got to play his way out of it. He's got every chance, but he's going to fill one of the 32 jobs with a contract if he plays well. So that's 2 more. Well, there's Matt Stafford, who that's an exception because he's very good.
He's just going to play until he retires.
Or he retires. But again, like the Panthers, what are the odds the Rams are legitimately replacing him with one of the first-round QBs? If not, they're going Mac Jones. They're going Kyler. You know what I mean? They're looking to the market.
They would be one who would be very willing to overpay for a Mac Jones.
Yep. So they're an exception because they're probably not a candidate for a high pick.
Correct.
The Colts don't have a pick. So
I
think hell or high water, they're going to
Daniel Jones is the quarter.
Or they're going to dump Daniel Jones because he can't play anymore. And then they're going right back to can we sign Joe Flacco? Can we sign Kirk Cousins? Like, they're going to be in purgatory for another year. They're going to be where the Dolphins are now, where it's like their team is in shambles. They probably have to fill a stopgap. That's going to be like the Geno Smith type of landing spot, right? So I'm not even counting the Colts. So right there, the only teams that you're like, absolutely.
Can we put Malik Willis? Can we put Malik Willis in that category too?
I was going to put Malik in the problem with Malik is his team is so bad that even if he's decent, it just feels like they are not going to pass up that opportunity.
Sure.
So I didn't say Malik, but yeah, I mean, if he somehow drags this Dolphins team to 7-10, 6-11, I mean,
I think he can play his way out of it. but his margin for error is probably a little thinner than everybody
And
else. It's probably, even though he's got the guarantees, I think his overall team that he's on is probably worse than all the dudes we just listed on the play their way outs, right? You would say Saints, Colts are much far better than the Dolphins in terms of overall team.
But I think if you're going to count Malik Willis, then I'm going to also count Shador Sanders because he could play his way out of it as well. Like I don't think the Dolphins are they're not better than the Browns. I don't think.
I would say whatever quarterback starts for Cleveland, because I'm not 100% on Shador either.
So that's what I was going to say. The likely teams, if you're just looking at Vegas odds on what their over under is, likely to pick in the top 10, probably Cardinals. Absolutely. Falcons, I would probably put them towards the higher end. I wouldn't say they're absolutely going to pick there, but they're probably in the mix and they need a QB. The Browns are up there. So that's another one. Dolphins, we already talked about them. Dolphins are up there as well. The Jets, absolutely. We already know the Jets. And then you have the Steelers, who, again, the Steelers are kind of like they're an older version of the Panthers and the Rams.
Yes.
Like they're probably not going to be bad enough to pick high. So it's going to be interesting next year because let's just say we do get another class like we had in 2023.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think you can just, or 2024. I don't think you can just pencil in 6 first-round QBs and say they're all top 24 QB. You can't put them all in Mendoza range. You know what I mean?
Right.
The landscape, something's going to have to give, which means there's some guys that we're deeming to be safe and reliable, and they have contract protection that are either not going to, or something's got to give at the QB landscape. So.
Yeah, I think it's a good exercise, and I think it kind of transfers into the final, the final banner that I put up here for takeaways. Is it too early to start gaining 2028 picks? Is it too early to start thinking? And the reason why I say that is because I think a lot of people, I think there's a lot to do with the 2027 class, but every single year it feels like guys just go back, right? Like you just said it. There could be 5, 6, 7. We did this exercise in the Heisman voice chat. There's 13 quarterbacks that we felt like, ooh, that guy wouldn't be terrible. And it's like, okay, but all of them can't come out next year. You know what I mean? Because you'll start having.
I think 2 things can be true though. I don't agree that we're overhyping the 27 picks. We are if we're thinking we're going to get a Bo Nix, Michael Penix, JJ McCarthy, Drake May, Caleb Williams, Jaden Davis.
Yes.
We're not going to get 6 quarterbacks that all land in soft, cushy. I mean, I hope we do. I hope every one of these teams that has a QB that we view as a stopgap, the Jets, the Browns, the Cardinals, the Falcons, the Dolphins, I hope those are all the teams that pick 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and it's perfect. But the odds that happens and you don't have a team where it's like, wow, that team has a stud quarterback, but their team went 5-12. They're picking 9th. They're not going to take one. Like the odds that we have the perfect alignment of teams that need QBs is low. But I think where the class is being slept on, Brandon, it's a great running back class.
It's going to be a very good one.
That we need a good running back class after this last running back class. People are going to be starved to get another class where there's a Judkins and there's a Henderson and there's 2 Harveys and maybe there's not a Jeremiah Love or an Ashton Genty, but there's going to be a fringe first-round running back. Plus, I think we're going to have that. Plus, you have the Jeremiah Smith chip, which is going to drive the market for
whatever it is.
Going to put that pick aside. Then the draft is going to start where that pick is, right? So anything that leaks in at running back or the other receivers or tight end is just going to basically be where the class starts. But I think there's there's a great running back crop coming.
Yeah.
And then every year there's going to be receivers. There's going to be a Zay Flowers and a Matthew Golden and a KC Concepcion. You know what I mean? Like those are going to be there every year. So there's going to be other just filler options. Mm-hmm. That's why the picks are valuable. It's not because the players are going to be better. It's because the diversity of what you could get, including quarterbacks, even if your quarterback has to sit for a half a year behind Matt Stafford or whatever, there's just going to be a multitude of options. That's why they're valuable, not because every player is incredibly good.
Yeah. And I'm saying, is it too early? Because I think we definitely can get, I don't think it's too early to get some 28
The 27s picks. They're spoken for.
Yeah.
What else do you have to go for? If you're trying to rebuild around flexibility, where else do you ask? Help. Is it too early to get 29s, Brandon? after the draft, after this year's rookie draft. 29s are eligible.
I don't think it's that far off. I mean, again, here's what I'll say is like there's going to be a quarterback or two that we are looking at right now and we did the dive, right? It's not just Arch Manning, it's Sorsby,
dude, the list literally
is nuts.
Half of the preseason top 25 is going to have a potential first round quarterback. I mean, every school you can project in the playoff almost, you're like, oh yeah, they have a first round quarterback.
Yeah,
so it's, there is going to be a lot of. And isn't that what we've always talked about? Isn't that what we've maintained? It's not that we know who the 5 first-round quarterbacks are going to be.
Yep.
But there's 15 candidates for it. So half of them will suck.
Yeah.
But the other half, you're going to go, well, you know what? Yeah, Brennan Sorsby had a pretty good year at Texas Tech, and they're in the playoff. So guess what? He's going to be in the conversation just like Ty Simpson is. Just, you know what I mean? Like, he's going to be in the conversation. Yeah. And typically, team success begets QB success, which is going to help drive. Well, hey, and I don't love Dante Moore, but I'm pretty sure if he went into the draft, someone might give him a shot in the first round. That's all you need for the picks to hold their value. You don't need it to become an elite QB class. You just need there to be interest that there's going to be tons of options as we get closer to the end of the year. Then we're going to have to pick somebody, and people are going to mock next year 5 QBs in the first because of all the things we talked about. All these teams need a QB. It's just going to be naturally
the way too early 2027 mocks on April 27th are going to be awesome because that's where you start that's when it starts, right? I've seen a comment. I can't wait till the 2026 draft is over. Like, don't enjoy the 26 draft because there's going to be people who go to landing spots that you're ultimately going to want. They're just, the picks are unappealing. So you just don't want to make those fantasy picks, but there's going to be some things that set up the 27 class and even the 28 class. Like there's just so many quarterbacks and so many, opportunities that pop up. I mean, there's guys that are, 2029. I mean, Scott, are we going to start getting picks for Jet Harrison? Are we going to leave Marvin Harrison in the dust in a few years to go get his brother? Like that's the kind of intrigue that people want, right? Like they're going to be, they're looking for the next, Chris Henry Jr. He looks great in those.
Where are those guys going to go in those Devi depleted drops?
Oh my gosh, he looks great in those shorts, right? In those Ohio State's Buckeye shorts with the helmet on. I mean, Chris Henry looks unstoppable. I mean, he's the next big Ohio State wide receiver. I mean, we do this every year. We helmet scout, even though we don't want to helmet scout, but we look at opportunities. We look where people go. We look at the college playoff, and we look at the opportunities that are there. I mean, it's just you just gotta like. If you can't get 27 picks because your 26 picks don't mean anything to some folks, try 28, try 29. Who cares? A first is a first. If you got to wait on it for 2 years, you know what? It's probably better than taking the lawn dart that you didn't feel comfortable with in 26, or take the pick and trade it out later on. It's really not. Don't make fantasy football harder than it really is. I mean, you can take our advice. You can do whatever. You could screenshot your stuff, send it in the community. But yeah, let's try to get to a couple questions here. Appreciate the 153, Scott, on a Saturday night in the middle of March.
That's all you, man. When I left, there was like 30.
I know.
You really drove those viewers in. Man.
I mean, they really did. They wanted me to come in and give them the heat.
Hit me in that chat if you want a Brandon solo show where Brandon dumps his brain.
Yeah,
30 minutes every single week.
Let B cook. Don't let me cook too long. You let me cook too long, and I'll start telling you to take those Air Nolans in the first round of Debbie drafts. So don't do
I'll tell you what, if you guys have never been in a league with Brandon, when Brandon gets in, he is not afraid to not afraid to place some dynamite on certain places of the roster and just let it go. And it will just wherever everything lands. I mean, that could be a show, Brandon. Brandon adopts an orphan.
Oh gosh!
Just watching the trajectory that all the pieces go. Hey, Brand, I got an offer.
Fantasy
looks like a decent deal. Boom, gone.
Oh geez, yeah. All right. So Ty wants me to do it, so I'll do it. All right. I'll bite. Because everybody's got me. Yeah. Look, all the guys that are hanging out in the All Gas Trade Show, right? All the guys that are in the All Gas Trade Show. So I'm the only one, Scott, right now that is buying picks. I have zagged. Everybody's doing the
26s, you mean?
Oh, no. Well, I'm buying 27s and 28s. So everybody paid in 3 years. I have literally started off with saying, hey, I want $125 for the first pick, and just started ripping picks. I got 427 picks.
Okay.
Now start off auction. I've paid for 2028 picks. I did a flash sale, right? $100, and I will give you and you give me your 28 first. I will give you $100. I will give you $100. So I'm giving you 10% of my auction money, and I want a 28 pick. I got two bites within 3 hours. So I now have only $438, I think, something like that. I have like 44% of my auction startup to fill 25 roster spots. But I have 427 firsts, and I have 320, and I now have 328 firsts. So like what I'm doing is I'm basically zagging against the entire market that I am going to basically try to build. I think I can build a team, an adequate roster, because it's max points for, so I don't need to worry too much, but I can build an adequate roster with the money that I have left. And even if I have to spend, even if I want to go and get like another first, 27 first and another 28 first, and I have like $300, I probably, and this is a best ball, 14 by 11. I think I'm trying the hypothesis that I can build a better squad than what I could have built trying to go into the elite market and screw around with what's going on right now. Because before I jumped on the show, 27%, almost 27% of the auction startup dollars, Scott, was already committed on the board through the first 28 players. And one of those players was Justice Hill. Shout out to Cody, throwing a crusty up there for $2. So you take that $2 player out, almost 27% of the auction dollars were already on the board in 27 assets. And there's 250 starting ones. Like, it is just one of those, like, when we talk about like strategies on what to do and how to be different, because everybody is trying to do the exact same thing, buy elite assets, I'm just like, yeah, y'all can have them. Y'all can have them, because I know that you're going to overspend that 125, and I'm just going to take your first. So when you need that pick back, I can sell it for multiple picks that probably you don't feel comfortable with, but you know that you got to build out your roster for.
Yeah, I like it.
So
like it nothing more fun than when you're in a startup where, especially in an auction where there is a lot of overspending. Once that overspending, when you just can kind of walk away and just kind of swallow your pride and realize that, hey, you're not going to be in this tier of players, then it starts to even out, and you can become the pesky one that they know you're not going to beat them right away, but you can probably leave that auction with 8 to 10 like usable core players that you can bring multiple seasons, right? And then you also get the benefit of, is there a minimum of how many you need to win? It's on MFL, right?
I think I got to come out with a starting roster. So really, I only have to have 11.
But you know, in best ball, that allows you to maybe take your money and consolidate it to like 15. And then you're going to be the one that gets to grind waivers all year with those free roster spots. And if you've ever played in a best ball with Brandon, it is, oh, hey, I picked this guy up off waivers. Brandon's selling me to you for a fourth, you know, for a third. Like, it's, you get to play that game. Now in lineup, start 10 lineup, start 11 lineup, there's diminishing returns.
Yeah, you don't play
that type of grinding. But in best ball, there really is, especially people that have paid 3 years out. There's gonna be teams that are like, okay, I'll give you a third and a fourth for those 2 starters that you've been using, those 2 receiver darts that are getting some targets. It's like, you'll be able to add to this. You don't even need to start adding thirds and fourths yet. You'll be able to add those over the next year, because you have double the roster spots to play with, because you also don't care about, you know, Calvin Austin having a couple big games. Like, once you get him, if someone else wants him, he's gone. You know what I mean? That's a huge benefit in best ball to be able to do that.
The benefit in best ball to playing the strategy that I'm trying over doing it in lineup is I don't need to know what week Calvin Austin will pop, because inevitably it will happen. I just have to have them near the radar. I just need to have them and then have the ability to sell that. Right? Because once I get that, like, once I have those and roster spots, like free roster spots in best ball, are like gold. They really are, because the ability to kind of just, because if you look at like and I know Ty did a whole breakdown in the community chat. So patreon.com/allgas, or click the link below to get in for free. Ty gave like a whole breakdown of like the chat GPT version of what I'm talking about right here. Like, you just want to have enough to double up the starters. And then from there, you want to have enough roster spots that you're just constantly churning. And if you want to grind, so those folks that say, "Oh, well, best ball is lazy. You don't have to do any roster management." That is the most false statement you can make about a best ball league. Because if you are churning and grinding, it is just as difficult to get those things as it is in a lineup league. And Scott and I are in both lineups and startups together. Like literally, we've seen the gamut of players. We're with folks that are very high level thinkers and folks that are, new to the dynasty game. And it's the same, like it is.
I assume everybody in this are they're probably DD community best ball grinders, right? So
no. There's a few. There's a few. This is a section auction. Old Jackson Tribes.
Well, the reason I said that is because to win, I mean, I know what it takes to win a league against Ty and Gabe and Cody. Like a stone cannot be unturned.
Yes.
You can't have 2 zeros in your lineup in week 15. Like it has to be like every spot you are watching on a weekly basis to make sure, man, if I'm holding a running back like a Jarquez Hunter from last year, the quicker you got rid of him, the more you benefited. Because if you cut him in week 2 instead of week 8, that's 6 more weeks you could have churned in a Calvin Austin or someone like that. And you never know when that will help you get 20 extra points that pushes you to a higher seed in the playoffs. But like to win one of those, you need to play in the Brandon market during the year. So Brandon's like, I'll play that. My roster is it's just like a swap meet every week.
Yeah,
with Brandon.
I mean,
who does he got? And he'll take anything
it's the thrift
because
listen,
what he gets is a free player off waivers.
Listen, if you live in a small community and you got like one of those thrift stores that has like the little dot special, the 50% off sale, like that's usually my team. Right? I'm usually like, hey, I got these guys right here, flash sale, 50% off. I don't even care. Let's just get rid of them. Who wants these points? Who wants these guys? You could take a swing on them. You may get the home run hit. You may get a dud. But that's the beauty of going into the thrift stores. Sometimes you find the gold, and sometimes you got just, someone's old, dirty jeans. Like it is what it is. And that's the fun part of best ball, right? I don't have to pick, but we do have a super chat, Scott. So this is an interesting one to maybe just wrap our time up here. Evening, fellas. Rookie, do you think will be a big bust for us in 2026 and beyond? Appreciate the super chat. Appreciate the super chat, Sacramento Kingpin. Loyal follower, also DD community member. Why don't you go with yours? Because I got to think about this one.
So mine has a caveat.
Okay.
Only because I think you could put different answers down for different ranges. I will say it's probably going to be the tight ends, though.
Okay.
I mean, I just don't see anything about Kenyon Sadiq or Eli Stowers where you look up and next year you're like, man, they've cracked the range of tight ends that actually have a market. And that doesn't mean they're not assets that people will want. I think there's a lot of buzz for them, but I also think that's a product of a class that just doesn't have a lot exciting to talk about. So if you're in even the talk of how those guys are going to be in like a 1.5 premium, they're just not good prospects. Like they're comparable to, I listened to a mock. This was I believe it was the Ringer NFL mock with Austin Gale and it's Shield. I forget his last name, but they're a decent pod, but they're doing a like most surprising and fun picks of the draft. And they have like the Rams taking Kenyon Sadiq. It's like, dude, he's not better than Terrence Ferguson. They just took him last year. You know what I mean? And so like, I think that's going to be, especially in 175, 2 PPR, people are going to take those tight ends in the first. Now, if you take them at the 109 and the 106 and you say, well, those picks sucked anyway, I'll just take a tight end and I'll worry about it later because I know there's going to be some fanfare, then fine. But I just have a hard time looking at the tight end landscape. And I mean, I put it on Twitter. Is Eli Stowers going to have a better career than Mike Gesicki? And the question was, if that's all you got, would you be disappointed? And it was like, oh my God, that's an awful pick. You know what I mean? But Mike Gesicki's had a 70 catch season.
Yeah.
He's had 3 700+ yard seasons. I mean, like, are you really just going to put Eli Stowers for 80 for 907 touch? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's hard to get there. And so unless you're picking one of those tight ends and you're thinking, man, they're going to get the the Isaiah Likely type of buzz where it's just like people believe in them ad nauseum forever. They just feel like sucker picks, especially now that we have, I think, even if you don't count Gadsden, Brandon, I think we have 5 really solid tight ends between Fannin, Loveland, Warren, McBride, and Bowers. Like, I don't think we're going to see many tight ends crack in the top 3, top 4 anytime soon. So we're just forcing more of them in there. And I just think this year that's a sucker pick. People in like 2 PPR, 175, they're going to take Sadiq at 106. And then they're going to be upset when he has 30 catches as a rookie.
Yeah.
And then what? Like, I don't want an asset that immediately is kind of limited to that. I'd probably rather take a couple receivers. So for me, I'm probably just going to be way lower than him.
Yeah, I think to answer the question, I think I don't want to say a name, but I think the bust position will be whoever is at RB2. Because
Does it matter where you have to take them though?
I think because of the cost that it's probably going to end up being, because people will shove that RB2 into 106. If it is a spot where opportunity can exist for that player, people are going to push that player into a position that is so uncomfortable to get out of if it does not work, because it's one of those and beyond questions. Because it's not just in 2026. Because if I said which rookie will be a bust for 2026, it would be Jeremiah Love. Because I don't know that year one, and Shane just did a whole dive. It's in one of our chats, right? If Jeremiah Love was to come out and put the Bijan rookie year one stats out there, people would be all the way off of Jeremiah Love and think he's a bust. But I don't think, but because it's the beyond part, I can't do that with Jeremiah Love because the situation could definitely get better. I think what's going to be the problem is the RB2 of this class is going to get steam jacked high. It might produce an RB2 season, maybe, right? If it's Seattle, it might produce an RB2 season off the bat. But you know what's going to end up happening is we're going to all look at next year and be like, there's no way that I would have taken Jadarian Price, Jonah Coleman. Pick your flavor of RB2 over the RB2 or RB3 of the 27 class. And now you're looking at, man, I really overpaid for a guy for almost the exact same production when I could have just taken that 106 and went and got Kenneth Walker. I could have gotten Travis Etienne.
But see, I don't think you can. I was just going to ask you that. But remove 27 because I think that's going to be its own island.
Yep.
Whether the players end up being good or better or whatever, I think that's his whole own island, right? You can't even get those 27 picks.
No, you can't get them.
I know it's easy to say that, but there's nobody out there trading a 27 first to get the 107 so they can draft Jonah Coleman because that's their RB2. So whoever your RB2 is, let's assume they're probably going to go in the top 8 or 9 picks. And if the landing spot is awesome, if it's the second round Seattle, it could go 106. I think we all agree with that, right?
Right.
I think really what you're trying to say is relative to the running back landscape, wherever you have to pick that RB2 of the class, relative to what else you could probably go get on the market at the same position, you're paying a lot for the lottery ticket aspect of it's a rookie and it's not J.K. Dobbins. It's not Ramondre Stevenson. Like, we know those guys are solid running backs, right? But there is no upside in having them other than you have them. Right. You use them. There is no, that guy's going to pop and I'm going to be able to flip him for, 3 seconds or, you know what I mean? There's not going to be that avenue when I think people overdraft that. But then if I tell you right now, the RB2 on Keep Trade Cut is going at running back 37. That is very inefficient. The RB2 in this class is going to go way higher than that.
Yep.
Once people see that there is an RB2 and they have a landing spot, there's nobody that's going to take Kyle Monungai over that running back. There's probably nobody that's going to take David Montgomery or Chuba Hubbard or Rico Dowdle or Blake Corum over the RB2 of this class. But right now, because you have to pick a name, and there's probably 4 candidates of who the RB2 could be, and nobody wants to have any super conviction on who that's going to be. Maybe Price is the one that's the favorite.
Yeah.
But the distribution is going to be way different after the draft, to where if you told me the RB5, I believe the RB5 right now of the rookie class is either Mike Washington or Nick Singleton. They're at like RB60. That's probably where the value is, right?
Correct.
Getting them there versus having to take the top one of that tier way higher where they're going to settle in the draft. Because like you would take The RB5 probably over. Here's the guys that they're by. Brashard Smith, Emmanuel Wilson, Devin Neal, Jalen Wright. That's where you're probably like, I'll just take a fresh blood. You know what I mean? I'll take a new body instead of one of those guys.
Yep.
But then RB36, where it's going to end up probably being like RB25 to 30 is where the second rookie this year running back's going to go. Are you really taking that? Like right now, Brandon, would you trade the 107 for Derrick Henry?
I'd probably want like a third back, but it's close. So it's close.
But that's why I asked you the question.
Yeah.
Because if you're scared of what you're talking about happening, you'd be going to that Javonte Williams, Derrick Henry, RJ Harvey, Cam Scattaboo, Bayshul Tootin range, DeAndre Swift range. And if you know you're looking running back, like probably go after one of those guys and see if you can get a second on top. See if you can get 2/3. See if you can get a 2-for-1 running back deal. I don't want to trade the 109 for J.K. Dobbins, but if you'll give me J.K. Dobbins and you'll give me, I don't know, Dylan Sampson or something like that, I'll do it. You know what I mean?
Yep.
That's the type of deal I would consider if I can do that. Otherwise, you are going to be tempted to draft one of these rookie running backs just because of the nature of the position.
And because it's so unappealing, I don't think that even if that player was to get there to that level, I don't think anybody's going to feel comfortable trying to make that trade.
That's a good point too.
You know what I mean? Like it's one of those because it is such an unappealing, and that's the thing. It's not that it sucks. It's that it's unappealing to the fantasy manager, right? Nobody feels good about clicking the button Ty Simpson in the middle of the first or 108. Nobody feels good about clicking the RB2 at that position. Everybody just wants to click the wide receiver because there's 5 of them, and you're just going to hope that a couple of those guys turn into top 30 wide receivers. But nobody feels really good, even like outside of 101. Nobody feels good about taking Mendoza. Even though you're going to smash it because you're going to take it, nobody feels good about taking it because you know that once you put Mendoza on your team, it almost kind of feels like Will Levis to a degree when Will Levis came out, right? Because we had that whole discourse. Like once you put Will Levis on your fantasy squad, there really wasn't much you could do. It was what it was. You just wrote it out. You just hoped that he did enough that it was worth the production. But like that's kind of how this whole class feels. Like it just feels like it's going to be uncomfortable. And then what's going to happen on the flip side, Scott, is let's say Jadarian Price does do something, or whoever RB2 is, Nick Singleton, Jonah Coleman, whoever. Like if you try to trade for them, people are going to be like, oh man, I paid the 106 for them. You need to give me more. So then you get stuck in this paralysis of like, I need more. But then it's like, okay, well, you could get a 27 second because he hasn't done crap for the first 3 weeks. Oh man, I paid the 106. Well, that's yesterday's price. This isn't now's price. So, that's where I think like this, I'd rather take the vet. And I think that it's going to turn out to be a bust in terms of fantasy production because what you're paying is going to make you really you're going to be paralyzed in the moment.
There's only 5 picks right now in 25 or 26 that you could trade for a 27 first. And that's not even in every league. I think there are some people that wouldn't even give a 27 first for like the 105 because they're a little worried about Jordan Tyson or Mekhi Lemon. You know what I mean? Like they are not viewing them as I can't replace this elsewhere. So there's really only 4 or 5 picks right now in 25 or 26 that you could trade for a 27.
Yeah.
And as soon as those 5 picks are made and 2 of those guys don't have the most impressive OTAs and training camps, you're not getting a 27 first for Jordan Tyson at that point. If he's been a little inconsistent, I'm not doing it, right? So it may be where there's just very few players in this because I don't think, and there'll be some leagues, there's always the crayon leagues or leagues that just have different markets than DD. I don't think there's going to be many guys that are, Mike Washington is so good that preseason people are giving a 27 first because he's got so much hype.
Yeah.
I don't think there's going to be many of those. So really be specific with the picks you make in 2026. And you can't look at it as it's a sunk cost. Adapt to the market. That's the last takeaway. I think that's my last marching order.
Yep.
Don't be like, well, this 109 sucks. I'm just going to pick it because the value is so low relative to the past. I'm just going to pick it because, well, screw it. It's a rookie. You know what I mean? Try to make some moves. Try to be creative to move those guys. This is not a class where I'm worried at all that I'm going to miss out on getting a couple. There's going to be guys we miss out that are better than expected, right?
Yep.
But I'm okay saying if that happens,
live with the results. Live with the variance. We talked about
it later. And other classes, I would not have said that. I don't want any exposure to really any of these guys. Like this is going to be specific.
Nah, appreciate. Yeah, no, I agree. You know, live in the variance. The variance is that the 26 class may turn out much better than in terms of production than what the perception is, and that's okay. You live with the variance. But appreciate everybody. 161, Scott, at 9:15 at night. Appreciate everybody tapping in. Appreciate everybody. You know, hit like and subscribe. You know, that's really, you know, there's 160 of you that got some good content here, that has some good marching orders, right? That can that at the end of March now we can go. We got 3.5, 4 weeks to get to the draft. You'll see Scott and I, along with Ray and Jay Rich, probably Shane. You know, we'll have some fun takes. Make sure you know, stick around on Monday night. Shane and I are going to do the Monday night draft board, a little bit of a twist. So you want to make sure that you get into the destination, the DDFFB, sorry, the DDFFB community. Make sure you get in there for free, because I may just drop something special in the community chat tonight, because we're going to need some fun for Monday night. So I'm going to need we're going to need some help. So jump in for free. Scott, you got anything? I got one other message, but you got anything you want to plug while we're here?
No, just consistent every week, trying some new things this year with content, community, all that kind of stuff. So there's never been a better time to get in the Discord. Link is in the description. You can get in for free. A lot of people have jumped in over the last month or so since we opened it up, gave everybody an ability to get in and at least read and observe whenever we do stuff on stages. So get in there and just support the channel, man. Like we all love this. You know, this
shout out to yeah.
Go ahead.
I mean, that's the final thing. You know, we're done. You can watch us back, but if you want to watch some trades and you want to watch some interesting Gabe takes and some Goomba takes, go head out. Go watch the All Gas Trade Show. It just dropped literally as I'm sitting here going solo. They literally just dropped their All Gas Trade Show for the week. So a bunch of different trades from the community. You want your stuff in there, you know, first come in, join, have some fun, get your feet wet. And then after that, you want to get your trades on. You want to get your trades on the All Gas Trade Show. You want to get your feet an opportunity into the roster rescues that Scott does every week. You know, sign up, support, be a part of the community. We're all love here. We all like to have fun. But until Monday night, when I'm back here for Monday Night Draft Board, we are out, guys. Take care. Have a great night. Peace.